The views and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. I have a big box sitting next to me that says the Lego Movie on it. This is an amazing toy. This is our toy of the hour. I want you to know that both hours today we are featuring Lego toys, and these are the last of our Legos. So if you've been holding out, not entering yet, now is the time to enter. So this one, an amazing toy from the Lego Movie. It even features a bunch of the little minifigs, which our kids really tend to like. This particular one is 854 pieces. It is the super secret police dropship from the movie. It's pretty incredible. Kind of an advanced Lego. But for some of our older kids on the spectrum, this is a toy that can make the holidays really special. We love Legos here, and we want to thank the Lego Corporation for sending us these fabulous Legos to share with some of our viewers. If you'd like to enter to win this or any of the other toys that we've been featuring during our Festival of Toys, make sure you have to be on our email list in order to enter, but once you are on that list, you want to email me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. Tell me which toy you're interested in winning, and you have to make sure that you give me a full mailing address because I need to mail it to you, and I won't know where to mail it to unless you tell me. So, of all the appropriate responses that include full mailing addresses, we will pick a winner to win this fabulous toy. Remember that with Legos, there are so many different things that you can work on. With one that's a little bit more complex, like this one, you really are working on following directions. It's step by step, and there are visual directions, so the child does not have to read textually, but imitation of blocks. You're working on sorting, problem solving, executive function about which to do first, because there are several different sections, and creativity, really block construction, so many different things that you can work on with Legos. And once they put it together, we do this in our house, Jem will put together a Lego and then he takes it apart and puts it together the way he wants to. So truly amazing, amazing toys that not only work for this generation, but then later on you can gift them to the next child on down the line. We love Legos. So if you'd like to enter, do that. Now, a couple of things that I want you to know. In just a few minutes, we're going to be kicking our show off here with Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is here with us. She's going to be answering your questions live on the show. You can be writing in. Lots of different ways to participate. We're going to show you how to do that. Kelby's going to show you many, many, many different ways to watch the show and participate. I'll remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. So many things to do there, including signing up for our email list, watching the live show, watching previously recorded shows, and interacting with us. To the side of the screen, there's a series of white boxes. Put your cursor in the one that says your question, start typing, hit enter, and that's all you have to do. There is no username, no password, no place to put in a credit card. It's all anonymous and free unless you want to let us know how to get back a hold of you, in which case give us an email address or a phone number or a snail mail address. We will keep that private from the rest of the audience. We hope that you will participate with us. It is so fun when we get an opportunity to talk with you directly. And again, all of that is free. I do want to remind you too that after Ask Dr. Doreen, I'm going so fast I can't keep up with my own tongue. Our second hour today is Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson will be here with us for that hour. And our special guest today, he's one of our recurring guests, Vince Redmond, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist who has extensive experience working with individuals on the autism spectrum, is going to be here with us answering your questions. And in particular, we're talking with him today about how to help our kids to sort of sort through that difficult time of figuring out what's real and what's myth. We're going to be talking about the Santa Claus conversation and other conversations to have our kids be as age appropriate as we choose for them to be, right? It's all about choosing. But if we are choosing to disclose certain things, Vince will help us to figure out how to do that in a way that's productive and not traumatic. So we'll be doing that in the second hour, and a lot of in the news in the second hour. Okay, I'm out of breath because that's so exciting, but it is time right now for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is here with us. Good morning. So thrilled to have you this morning.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
For those of you who are just tuning in, Dr. Grand-Pichet is a true expert in the field of autism, having worked in this field for multiple decades and with all kinds of individuals on the spectrum, not just the little kids, not just the older kids. You work with adults and everything in between, and she's been doing that for quite some time. But she's not only an expert in the field of autism, she's a visionary. She's someone who helps us all to get a grip on where we've come from, where we are, and where we'd like to get to. And I think that that's a great service that you give our community.
Thank you very much, Sharon. You're very kind.
So we're thrilled that she's here to answer your questions. We do like to remind you at the start of the show that there is no expert who can give individual specific advice in this format. It would be a disservice to the individuals that we're wanting to know more about.
That's right.
So we hope that you will write in your questions, be as specific as possible, and then we'll ask for some information from Dr. Grand-Pichet to help you to steer what you might want to ask next or who you might need to go to get more help and support.
Yep.
Is that about round it out?
That's perfect.
Okay, great. So we're going to get started this morning. We had some questions that came in via email.
Okay.
I have to take my glasses off to read. I don't know what I'm thinking. Okay, hi. We have an autistic son who is 21 years old. He has apraxia. He can imitate any simple sentences.
21
years old. His spontaneous speech is still prompted and limited to his needs in 3-word sentences. He has a cycle of behavior including self-injury and aggression, so he would be compliant and cooperative and makes progress in his programs for about 2 weeks. Then he would have about 2 weeks in which he would be very agitated, exhibits self-injury and aggressive behaviors, although he takes some medication for behavior, but on bad days of his cycle, these medications do not help to reduce the aggression. Academically, he's smart, but because of the aggression, the school district placed him in an autistic class in the county with low-functioning and aggressive students. We have a good ABA program started 1.5 years ago. Also, he had an ABA program when he was 7 years old for 2 years. Also, I have learned how to teach him and structured him using ABA principles since he was 3.5 years old, but nothing will help with his aggression in the bad days. We did not go into a diet route because we believe that he does not have any allergies. We wondered if you could recommend a psychiatrist specialized in autism or any other doctor who can help with his behavior. We live in Orange County, California, but we are willing to travel if you recommend any doctor located far from us. And they said, God bless you. I'm going to pass that to you so you can refer to it.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so I think sometimes we do things and we do them for such a, it's kind of like doing a diet. You know, you do a diet and then there's a slight thing that you're doing wrong, a tiny little thing that you're doing wrong, and you don't lose any weight at all. And then as soon as you adjust it, things start to fall into place. So I think what I'd like to do for this family is to kind of revisit the accuracy and the perfectness of everything that you're currently doing, in addition to suggesting some other things. So first thing is that with aggression and self-injurious behavior, you never, essentially it's not a side effect. And when you look at going to see a psychiatrist or someone who, when they see something like that, especially if it's an older individual, what they will do is they will put your child on various medications that are just sort of, I call them numbing medications. They basically calm the individual down because they make you more or less, place you more or less in a sort of semi-vegetative state, like you just don't really have the energy to do much about it, so therefore you're not going to aggress or be self-injurious. The issue, though, is still the same. It's just that we're kind of making the individual much more lethargic and, like, not present. So I don't really like those medications. Obviously, it's a personal choice, and if you there are any psychiatrist that you see or neurologist will actually eventually get to the point of suggesting those types of medications. So that is an option. I can't give you referrals, but I'm sure you can go to Children's Hospital in Irvine. There's a big autism center at UC Irvine. Now, from my perspective, from a behaviorist's perspective, challenging behaviors are just the individual trying to communicate something. And I don't know that we've identified what the individual is trying to communicate here. Truly, if you have a good behaviorist, then they should have already done functional analysis to determine an FBA, functional behavior assessment, to determine what the function of his behaviors are. It is likely that, I'll just throw out a big fast one to you. We call this behavior self-injurious behavior, but a lot of times self-injurious behavior or self-injury only really occurs when other people are present. And that, to me, indicates that it's quite different than the traditional definition of self-injurious behavior. Self-injurious behavior, or SIB, used to occur in individuals years ago. I'm sure there are some who still have it occurring, where it isn't attention-based. You can see the behavior occurring when they're alone. That's a quick test to tell you that this is not an attention-seeking function, but that it is probably an internal function like pain. In behavioral interventions or ABA, we refer to things as sort of intrinsic reinforcement or automatic reinforcement is what it's called, which basically means, there's an automatic function that it serves. The automatic function that it serves, I think, in most cases, is distracts the individual from the pain that they're experiencing or from some sensory need. So, like, for instance, scratching someplace that itches. Or, when you have pain, you actually do tend to put pressure on it. We all do this. If you have a headache, we tend to do this. If you have a neck ache, you tend to push down. If you have a stomach ache, you tend to put pressure on it. We put pressure on places that hurt. Sometimes self-injury is seen as, is actually a response to pain. Sometimes it's a response to the need for pressure. I mean, those are the things that I truly have seen in a lot of individuals. So self-injury is important to identify what the cause is. First of all, if it only happens in the presence of people, then that means that the person doing it, the child, is trying to tell you to get out of his face, to stop placing demands, to give him what he wants. It's an attention or a tangible function or an escape function or something that indicates he doesn't want to deal with you. So has all that been done? Have you already identified the function of his self-injurious behavior, and have you done the same for his aggression? Right. So identifying the function of the behavior is critical for me to be able to help you and tell you what interventions you should or shouldn't do. Now, for someone who's 21 years old and mans, he may not be, or requests things, which I think you said requests things. His request may not be developed enough or detailed enough, I suppose, that they get his meaning across. So he might still be frustrated.
I think about the one mom who talked about, her son used a communication device, and that was great, and it was a way for him to have some functional communication. But she said, if I could wish for anything, it would be for him to have a way to be able to tell me which topping he wants on his baked potato. Right. Because that could become a tantrum, because he was communicating saying, I want a baked potato, but he couldn't say whether he wanted chives and sour cream on it.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, you go, oh, yeah, that would be frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the more and more advanced you get on things like a picture exchange communication system, you basically then will get more and more detailed.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I also like to go to typing, keyboarding, because then you can actually type exactly what it is you want.
Yes, exactly.
But in any case, I don't want to rule out, I don't want to override out any of those. I'm not sure that you have done a perfect job not you, but the behavior analysts around you have done a perfect job in terms of identifying the actual functions, because what tends to happen, and I reviewed a bunch of reports yesterday, and I saw it, and a lot of behavior analysts do this. They will, for instance, and it's a very common thing. It's nothing bad. It's just that you have to look at it from a slightly different perspective. So, I had a case where the individual had Asperger's and anorexia, and I think the behavior analysts were looking at it and saying, okay, the function of spitting out his food or not eating, he spits out his food and hides it, is an automatic function, because we can't identify why he does that. Well, he does that because he has anxiety, and therefore he's hoarding and he's avoiding food because he wants to have perfectionism. That's the anorexia side that you have to understand. So, for your child, for your son, you have to identify what the function is, and you have to go beyond the normal stuff that we think about. Like, very clearly, for instance, as I said, it could be pain.
Yeah.
So figure out what that is, because I truly do believe that challenging behaviors, 99% of challenging behaviors can be handled through behavior intervention. If it is pain, then you need to figure out what the pain is and fix that. So, so many kids body rock with something in their stomach, and often it's like they just have gastrointestinal pain, and we have to fix that before they feel better. So you have to figure that out. And so, without sounding, I don't want to be bossy about this, but I do suggest that you actually get a biochemical panel on your child and determine what foods he might be allergic to. This is not a type of allergy that you see. It's not like a peanut allergy where you see someone breaking out. It's just discomfort usually, and that's why we say don't call it an allergy, the gluten and casein and so on. It's not really an allergy, it's the inability to break down these foods. Yeah. It's not like your body is reacting in the same way as an allergy. It's more that you break this product down halfway, and then it turns into an effect in your brain that is like an endorphin type effect. So you need to kind of have him tested. And hey, you're in Orange County. Dan Rosignol is in Orange County. He's in, I believe, Irvine or thereabouts, and it's very easy to go to him and get all of this testing done. He's he has MAPS. He does the MAPS
the director
training.
of MAPS.
He does the MAPS training, and therefore he can definitely help you. And that he is in Irvine, I believe, and his last name is Rosignol, Rossignal. So please contact him. He would be able to do all the testing that you need in order to see if there's anything off biochemically. And also, I mean, if he, the thing about the 2-week cycles makes me think there is something going on, because you seem to have a 2-week good cycle, 2-week bad cycle. But I would suggest, in addition to looking at the biochemical status of your child, you look at if there are different people present in the 2 weeks on and off. What changes in his environment? Does something change in his environment? And otherwise, then yes, then you're looking internally to figure out exactly what is going on. And, try not to be subjective about it. Identify exactly what you find to be different. Let's say the number of tantrums, and actually document it, write it out to the 2-week period. You might be surprised. Sometimes it just feels more, but it isn't more. I don't know. Make it very, very clear that there's a huge distinction between the 2-week periods.
Okay.
On and off. Those are some things that you might want to do.
I want, if you would be willing to elucidate a little bit, you talked last week about something, a leak, and I mentioned it the next day on the show, and we had somebody write in and say, I love this idea, because we were talking, I don't remember which question we were asking about last week, but a leak in, when you set up behavior intervention, you want to make sure that everybody is doing it, and sometimes if everybody is doing it except one person, and you were referring to that as a leak, and I love that analogy, and talked about it again on Thursday, and parents were writing in about that. So what happens if we've got a behavior intervention and everybody's doing it, but one person is messy with it or isn't doing it? What can that do to the whole program?
Yeah, I mean, it can mess up the whole program pretty badly. In fact, there's a term for it that develops in the individual. It's called behavioral contrast effect, which means that the child gets really good, or the individual gets really good in one environment and really, really bad in another environment. And by environment, I mean, you know, could also be with one person versus another person. And you see this very often in families that are separated or divorced, where the parents are completely different from each other. You will have the child a completely different behavior in one home versus the other. And that is absolutely, and it's just simply because one person is demanding less or giving in more, and therefore the child becomes confused and essentially, or figures out, hey, I can get away with more here. Yeah. You know, this is a very typical thing, and all kids do that. So with our kids, it's extremely important because they just need to have more black and white rules in regards to what's allowed and what's not allowed. And that's a very good point, Shannon. This individual might also have different people dealing with him in a different way, and that could also produce some of this aggression. But you know, the part of this that bothers me is the 2-week thing, because that's a very cyclic type of thing, and to me, it's more of a medical issue if it is really a 2-week on and off. So you'd want to be very, very careful about that and figure out what it is exactly.
Okay, cool. Great advice. And then do us a favor and write back and let us know what progress you make and what you decide to do and what happens as a result. We love follow-ups. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more of your questions for Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. You can be writing in on the live feature right now. Stick with us.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Lisa Ackerman with TACA. We're here with the TACA Facts, the most common questions in the autism journey, real-life questions and answers for your family. Oh boy, this one gets me in trouble. I get this question probably at least a dozen times a week, but how do I get my significant other on board? Whether it's having ABA done in your home, 5 days a week, speech therapy, or even biomedical intervention. I'm talking to you as a parent. It happened to me in the autism journey 3 years after diagnosis. I felt like I'd been through a war zone. I don't have pictures. I don't remember those 3 years. It was awful, and I'm surprised my husband and I made it out of that war zone. So here's some of the tips that helped me get through those 3 years and made it a better marriage, because he's the one I want to be with. First thing you need to do, and this goes for dudes and chicks, replace all the bathroom reading material. Now, whether you just had an independent evaluation with a neuropsychologist, or you just went to your doctor, your MAPS doctor, to help your child get through some serious medical issues, replace the labs, replace the neuropsych eval, and put that all in the bathroom. That's where we do our best reading and thinking, after all. It's one of the most simplistic things that you can do, but literally replace all the bathroom reading material. 2, very important that twice a year you have a meeting and you schedule it with your spouse to say, we're going to do the next 6 months of planning, whether it's just create a quick list, identify the issues or the self-stimulatory behavior or the things that you need to do to help your child with autism make the project. Let me give you an example. We created the Man Project. My son was becoming a teenager, and we found ourselves living a little bit in a rut, babying him a little too much. So what we did was we created a Man Project, and we identified a list of the skills and the things that we wanted my son or our son to learn. We agreed to it, and then we came up with a plan that we could activate over the next 6 months. And my next favorite. Don't forget to have sex with your spouse. Often you will feel disconnected with the person that you love. And if you're not connected with them, you're not connected with them in that way. You're not connecting with them in your autism journey. So my husband laughs, he calls me Dr. Ruth, so I'm giving you a coupon to please just go have sex with your spouse. That will help move things along, but also make it a little more cohesive in a house of chaos, living with autism. So hi, this is Lisa signing out as Dr. Ruth. No, I'm just kidding. Lisa Ackerman with TACA, and we'll talk to you at the next TACA Facts.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I want to take a second to address a question that came in on the live feature this morning. Hello, ladies, and happy holidays. My beautiful little boy is 3 years of age and has been diagnosed with autism. We will be starting the card journey in approximately 3 weeks. See, this just, I'm welling up. I'm so excited for you. They go on to say, this is truly a wonderful Christmas present for the entire family. My question is, while my son is receiving 40 hours of approved ABA therapy with card, would it also be recommended that we add occupational and speech therapy to his schedule, or is card trained to help in these areas? My concern is that we have used occupational and speech therapy in the past, but due to my son having compliance issues, it was unsuccessful. Please tell me what you recommend. We want to give him everything he needs in order for him to be successful and reach his maximum potential. As always, thank you and God bless. I'm so excited for you because you show all of the hallmarks of being able to get as most done, because you're saying we're going to do everything that we can. You're starting at the age of 3 and you're excited and asking the right questions. So I congratulate you. You are doing an awesome job.
That's wonderful. And is the child 3?
3 years of age.
Well, I don't think you need to worry right now because your child is pretty young, so let our team go at it for about 6 months, and if we can, let's see how his speech develops. I generally don't really need speech if things develop the way we want them to. We may add speech if we need a little bit of help with articulation later, but we don't really think we need it because we do focus on a massive amount of language and speech. So I wouldn't worry about that for now. Occupational therapy I only recommend for my kids who actually need it. So I don't know if your child needs it. That would have to do with his specific skills and deficits. So I generally will recommend OT for my kids who have some level of, let's say, sensory integration problems. So or they are, they're extremely active or stuff like that. So, it's not something that's going to be massive. Your supervisor over the next 5 or 6 months will be able to tell a little bit more whether your child needs OT. So don't worry about those things for now. If you've gotten a full program going, that's great. I hope we don't disappoint you with being able to fulfill the hours. I'm having a really big struggle right now with fulfilling hours, and we're trying very hard to increase our staff and train them, but it's hard because we take a long time to train our people, so we're doing our best. But in any case, and don't panic because your child's really young, and you don't need to start with 40 tomorrow. Like, you need to build up to 40. So, because otherwise your child will kind of freak out from that much intervention right off the bat. The one thing I would recommend is, if you want, get on my calendar or get on the calendar of our clinical director, Evelyn Kung. It'll take a while to schedule you. I don't know which office you're from. If you're in California, then please come down and see me. If you're not, I can certainly do a review over Skype with you or on the phone. But probably about 6 months to a year from now, it'd be good to see me or see Evelyn.
Okay, let me ask you in terms of this question, because sometimes, depending on where you are, if with a 3-year-old, I know in the case of Jem, the school district offered us a wide array of things when he was 3, and we declined on most of it because we wanted to do our 40-hour program with card.
Right.
We were advised to keep the speech and the OT so that later on, if you refuse services, it's harder to get them back. So we kind of monkeyed around and did it in a very, we put card hours first and gave them the opportunity of anything that was left over. I don't know that it was really beneficial for him, and it meant that I was driving around and doing a lot more driving than I needed to. We kind of looked at it as an opportunity for him to socialize with other kids while he was doing his in-home program.
OT?
Yeah, the OT and the speech, because they put him in a group of kids where they would play games. And I don't know how much benefit there was to it, but it meant it left a placeholder so that we always had speech when we continued on for IEP.
Right.
If they've got a couple of hours and they're willing to do the driving.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. It's not going to harm things for sure, as long as it doesn't interfere with hours we can provide.
I think that's the main
thing. The group
thing.
aspect of it I like. It depends on where your child's level of functioning and language and on comprehension is. I don't know if they said if the school's providing it. Usually you're looking at insurance, but
Now, is that the
Yeah.
case? Because our school paid for
right,
speech and
you
OT.
were pre-insurance.
Yes,
Yeah.
back in the dark ages, like
Right.
8 years ago.
Right,
Isn't that
right,
funny?
right.
Interesting though, but absolutely, if your insurance is paying for it, I would rather have the.
You're not
88
going to
hours.
lose it with I mean, with insurance, if your coverage is your coverage, whether you say yes to it now or in 5 years.
Okay.
But it is something to consider. You never want to say no to a resource that might go away just because you refused
Yeah.
it now.
Okay, so maybe just don't sign a piece of paper from the school saying you're refusing speech and OT.
Yeah, never do that because you always want to accept whatever help anyone has to give.
Yes. Okay.
But
awesome.
ABA is probably the most effective for your child. We'll see in 6 months to 12 months. You'll see how fast things are changing.
But,
I would love to know which office you're in.
Yeah, write in and tell us which office you're in. But I can tell you that year of ABA in home, I wrote a blog about it a couple of years ago saying what a difference a year can make.
Yeah.
That before when the school was saying this is what we want you to do, and we said no, we want to go with the program and card, and they told me horror stories of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And a year later, our child was
Completely different.
so different.
Yeah.
And our circumstances were different. They were offering us the most restrictive environment at the beginning of that year.
Oh my God.
I looked at the classroom and it was kids who had helmets on that were hitting their heads against the wall.
Oh my God.
And that's where they wanted my gem to
That's
go.
crazy.
And a year later, he was offered full inclusion in a preschool at the age of 4.
Wow.
Full inclusion. And that year, I always tell the story that
That's unbelievable to me.
there was one person who sat there at the IEP who had worked with Lovas much later and told me horror stories and said, this is why you don't want to do this. And she and I did not see eye to eye, of course. And she wanted him to go into that classroom. And a year later, I watched as my son on that same campus was walking back. He wasn't holding hands with it. He had been with a speech teacher, and he was walking back across the campus. He was looking up at her, talking to her, and they were walking side by side.
With the speech therapist.
With a speech therapist, walking back. I was sitting on a bench watching, and I turned and I looked to the other side, and there was a little boy that they wanted Jem to be in the classroom with, walking with this person who had given me the bad advice. And every 5 feet, and it's a year later, every 5 feet she was having to stop. She was holding his hand, and he was pulling away and laying down on the ground, and she would have to pick him and couldn't even walk down the sidewalk, which is where my son had been the year before. There was no conversation, there was no eye contact, and all kids are different.
Yeah.
But I just remember sitting there and seeing those two pictures
And just shivering.
and
saying,
shivering,
"Good
thinking
God."
that could have been my child.
I know, you're giving me goosebumps right now because you think about these people who get into the field of special education and, who are like old timers, I guess. I mean, I consider myself an old timer, but I came into a very kind of, I guess, radical field. When Lovas and when we started in this field, it was like nobody believed us. It was a joke. I started way before the 1987 study, so everybody was thinking like, what are these people talking about?
Yeah.
So, but my point is they came into this field and they actually hurting people more than helping them by being closed-minded, and not believing in something else. I mean, this is a really important thing. We're not recovering and curing every child who comes into this syndrome. We all, as providers, have to be open-minded to something else that's out there. If our thing was perfect, no matter what we do, whether it's ABA or nutrition or biochemical, biomedical or dietary or whatever it is, speech or OT or whatever it is, if it was perfect, it would actually recover every single kid.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's helping a lot of kids for sure, and that's why ABA is approved and recognized, because we are helping more kids and it's documented.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there's still people who say stuff like that, and it's saddening. It's very frightening.
Yeah, absolutely. But I congratulate you again because you're at the right place at the right time, doing the right things, asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Exciting things are going to happen.
And please go about, and I love parents who say like they're excited about starting with us, and I appreciate you so much. Shannon is starting a an advisory and supports group for parents, so please stay in touch with Shannon.
Yeah.
You can always email me. You can always email your clinical director, Evelyn Kung. You should stay in touch with us because We love to have contact. You can always contact the QA department, the Quality Assurance Department, which is run ultimately by Evelyn Kung, but also Sienna Greener-Wooden, who directs it and runs it. And you can be in touch with all of us. We love our kids. We want to be in contact and see how your child is doing. Make sure you use our assessment center and get your child tested every year. This is all funded, but we will do this. We want to do standardized testing for your child. Make sure you contact our physician, Linda Copeland, and get to see her when she's in your office. Make sure all of your medical records are updated in our skills program, in our skills database. We want to have everything. The more we have and the more involved we are, the better a job we can do.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back with more questions. Stick with us.
C-Touch Learn is an incredibly flexible and easy-to-use visual instruction and assessment tool. No longer do you need to use physical cards and search for the card that you're looking for. With C-Touch Learn, we include over 4,000 high-resolution images on a various number of subjects that are available to you to create your custom instruction. You can also use your own images. Lessons that are included with our libraries, there's over 2,000 exercises included, and a simple example of a lesson would look something like this. There's a text prompt across the top. There's an audio prompt that you can choose from.
Select the pictures that go together.
And an incorrect answer gives you a visual and an audible response, as a correct answer also gives you a visual and an audible response. What makes C-Touch Learn so powerful is how easy it is for you to create custom instruction. Simply click on the pencil icon, give this lesson a name, create the lesson, and we're going to add some images from the libraries. Just take the images you want, drag them and drop them onto the screen. And then create a text prompt and an audio prompt. And this one we're going to say, touch the milkshake. And we're going to give it a correct answer by tapping on it so you can see that green check mark. And the next exercise, we're going to say, touch the pretzels. And I'm going to record my voice with the little microphone icon here. Touch the pretzels. We're going to indicate that's the correct answer with the green check mark, and we've just created a new lesson.
Touch the milkshake.
There's your correct answer. Touch the pretzels. And a correct answer again. When you finish your lesson, you can save the score. Let's say this was Susan's lesson. We can put notes in here and save that for Susan. Here you can see the students that you have, the scores that you have for the lessons that they took, the comments that you had with them. And then the other thing we have, which is really, really positive, is the community. So the community is an area where users of C-Touch Learn Pro can share the content with each other. We have a public community that's available to our Pro Edition users, and we have private communities that are available to our Site Edition customers. So schools can purchase Site Edition, set up private communities so that their professionals that are working in their environment have the ability to share content with each other within the school environment. We also include an interactive help system that's built into the application that lets you walk through different scenarios and find out how to do exactly what it is that you need to do. C-Touch Learn is available on iTunes. It's also available directly from Brain Parade, and it is an incredibly powerful and flexible tool and should be part of every special educator's toolkit.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grampachet, and she's answering your questions in real time. We're going to shift our eyes to Wisconsin for two different questions that have come in from Wisconsin. The first one came in via email. They said, "Hi, my 16-month-old has recently been diagnosed with possible ASD, and he's going to end up at an evaluation soon for a definitive diagnosis. My pediatrician told me that we should start ABA therapy, and from there, things on the internet, there's a And from the things on the internet, there's a large difference between ABA therapies. I live in a very remote area in Wisconsin in a city called Minocqua. I'm not even sure that I've said that correct. I was wondering if we could get help finding quality ABA therapy here, and how do I know that it does right? And thank you very much. This is a question that we got endlessly at the Orange County Autism Speaks Walk over the weekend.
I'm so glad people are asking that.
Yeah, there were so many people, first of all, that I met that I didn't know about ABA still with children diagnosed with autism. But then when we started talking about it, it was the big question of the day. How do you know, how do you find an ABA provider, and how do you know that they're good quality?
That's right. And there are many different, I guess, branches developing in some ways. I consider ours its own brand card. The way we do things is different from other ABA providers, for sure. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to train BCBAs who come in for 6 months or more a year. So there's, essentially, you have to, like, if we want to divide ABA, we'd say there are people who were purely trained by Lovas, and they will do more of a, they will start more of a discrete trial type program and go into what's called a natural environment training program. That would be me. That would be most of CARD, all of CARD. What we've done at CARD, which is a little different, is that we kind of added on a lot of the thinking of Skinner, B.F. Skinner, which was verbal operants, and that's a way to teach language. So we kind of included that into our program, which pure discrete trial people might not do that. It's sort of how you teach language in many different ways. And then we also are heavily into the higher level things. So we at CARD have developed a lot of programming in social skills and cognition and executive functions, and I don't think most other providers don't do that. So our program is quite different. I would say you should, if you're interested in a CARD program, we can easily offer that to you. That would be through our remote services department. So you just go online, Center for Autism, and look for remote services. You can contact our admissions office as well at CARD, and they'll transfer you to remote services. What we would do is do a full assessment anyway, and then we would send you a supervisor and hire staff in your area and then oversee your child. That's not a problem. If you want to know more about our program, you should probably get our book,
which I have the title of.
Awesome.
The title of the book is Evidence-Based Treatment for Children with Autism, the CARD Model. Practical Resources for the Mental Health Professional.
Right. And it should be on Amazon now. I know last week they sold out, so they ordered more, but it should be on now. Okay, great. So I would, how much is it?
$60.21 on Amazon.
Is it really? It's gone up. That's interesting. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's gone up on Amazon. I guess the more people order, the higher they raise the prices. Barnes & Noble has it as well. You could probably get it through us as well, and we might give a lower price if we can buy from the publisher direct. I should try to set that up. But I would love for you to get that, because it is very, this is a parent who understands that ABA is different. That's a really important thing to understand. Now, then there are other people out there who will follow, let's say, the WebABLES or the VB MAP, and those are completely different. The portion of ABA programs that are going to always be the same is how we handle challenging behavior. Everybody does that the same, and that's all just techniques that everybody should know. Now, whether or not they apply it correctly is different. That has to do with the quality of training and the amount of training. If you start with an organization, you want to ask, how well trained are these people? Don't always be mistaken by the professionalism or maturity of the supervisor. That's quite different from what they know. So, we have to train them on both. We really work with our people to be mature and professional, but that has nothing to do with their content training. A lot of BCBA, we just hired a bunch of BCBAs again, and we started training with them, and we realized they have absolutely no experience in teaching. So there's two sides to ABA. One is reducing challenging behavior, and the other one is increasing deficit skills. And the portion that has to do with increasing skills that are deficient, the teaching portion, the 90% of people in the world of ABA are very limited in that thing. They're much more really very good at the behavioral portion, but not with the increasing deficit skills. So that's something you want to be able to watch and make sure the people that you're working with can do that. And I guess the overall measure of whether it's a quality program is also just the progress of your child. So if you should have behaviors pretty much under control, challenging behaviors within the first 6 months. And I would say beyond that, you should have a pretty rapid growth curve in the first year. If your child's 3, I think they said their child's 16 months. 16 months old. You have a baby, so the way that this would work is that if you get the diagnosis, you're probably going to start at 10 hours a week. And this is what I would do. I would start your child at 10 hours a week, and it would be very play-oriented intervention, focusing on the executive function skills that we can develop, like eye contact and joint attention and imitation. A lot of imitation skills have to develop, and then the beginning areas of sound production. And that's the stuff I would focus on, but it's very play-based. And then by the time your child hits 2, I would have increased to probably around 15 to 20 hours. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I would probably gradually increase between 2 and 3 to close to 40 hours, because my goal with a 16-month-old is that I could potentially finish by 4. And that is my goal. And so, you have all of that to deal with, and it's all fun, and good luck with that. Another thing I want to caution you about is that once you get into your ABA program, one of the things we do here, which is kind of important for me, is to make sure the child's also stable medically. That's sort of one of the important things, because a lot of times ABA providers don't understand that you're doing your very best. You're like doing massive hours of tutoring, and the child's not sleeping. Or the child has severe allergic reaction to stuff, or the child has severe GI problems, or the child has visual issues that we're not dealing with. You have to kind of fix the hardware, and then the software. So you have to make sure the child's eating well, getting nutrition to the brain, not reacting negatively to anything, sleeping well, feeling good, so that they can learn better.
Yeah, set them up for success in that way. Okay, cool. And then let us know if you need more assistance with that. Now, also from Wisconsin, and by the way, our viewer from Wisconsin, Mike Hipple, wrote in and said that he's familiar with where that city is. It's actually by him. And Mike wrote in a question. He said, "Hi, I'm going to be helping with daycare and adults, a day program. We're thinking about having a sensory room. We don't know where to start. So where should I start?"
Oh, that's great. Okay, so the kids have different needs, sensory needs, so you definitely want to have a series of things where there are children there are certain sensory things that are calming and other sensory things that are activating, and you need to have both of them.
And again, this is for adults.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Both the same thing. So you will have bins, like large bins that are like thin, not deep but large, that are filled with, one would be filled with sand, one would be filled with rice, one would be filled with like beans. Okay, those 3 will probably be good for some sensory interaction. Then you'll want to have an area of the room that is a calming area, so you'll want to have dimmer lights. One fantastic thing for the adults would be headphones, like noise canceling headphones, because they will really help the individuals calm down a lot. Any kind of aromatic thing, so I don't want to say candles because that's dangerous, but those things, what are those things called that have sticks and they're in liquid? Aroma things.
Yes. What are they called?
Anything that produces a positive smell will be very calming and nice. Some of our adults and children like tight spaces, so we have these suits that you can order for adults as well that are very tight. They're kind of like lycra, like elastic. They look like
It's a compression shirt.
they're compression full body suits.
Yeah.
They're they're like I don't know what you would wear when you're ice skating. Like
yeah,
full.
they're almost like thermal, but they're not the nubby. They're like silky.
Yeah, they're stretchy. They're like gym clothing, So, but they're full body suits, and you can order those online. Those are some of our folks really love those. In fact, there's some that you can actually. They look like a cocoon, and you go inside and you pull it over your head, and it really like closes your whole body in. So that would be something you'd want to have available. Another thing that's really good is you can order one of these massive bean bags. They're like huge bean bags, and a person, when they sit in it, it kind of like covers you completely. So that's something that a lot of our adults find calming. The other calming things that you would need are like a brush for brushing the skin, a specific type of a brush. There are vibrating types of machines, like the ones that you can use, the ones that you do for back massage, for instance, that heat up and also massage. Those can be very calming. Just the feeling of it can be very calming. I'm trying to think of the other things that could be helpful. I mean, that's a lot of stuff to begin with. You want to have thick blankets and things like that, because sometimes just putting an individual in the blanket and rolling them up is like one of the most calming things you could possibly do. Let's see.
We just featured a couple of weeks ago the Snug Vest, which is the one that inflates with air, and then you can ease the pressure off. That'd be great to have one of those.
You know what? I need to get one of those for one of my kids.
I have to send you the link to it. I'm supposed to remember to do that for you. But those are wonderful because it's customizable. For one of my kids. One of my kids would love to have that. Okay. That's fabulous stuff. Yeah. But more so, a lot of the things that I just mentioned are things that I've learned from my patients. They tell me, they show me that, you'll have someone who will come up to you and put your hands on their body. That's the type of person who's going to want brushing. Yes. You have another person who comes and just constantly wants to be held. That's someone who's going to want all those pressure types things. Yeah. So, or the kids do this, or the adults who do that. They love the pressure. Yeah. So those are things that you can just learn from observing the person you're working with. Sounds good. All right, I'm going to forge on ahead because we don't have a whole lot of time left. But I've got a parent who needs a little reassurance, and from time to time we all do. So she says, "Hi, ladies. My son is 4, been with CARD for 14 months. Great progress. Lately, we've been noticing that as much as he knows, he's still lacking so much. I was a big believer in this therapy, but lately I'm having doubts. We can't have a simple conversation with him. He's still not interested in any of us. The last month, he seems to be enjoying negativity too much, for example. He hits his brother. While his brother is crying, he laughs. If I tell him that it's not okay to hit, he laughs. He seems to be enjoying destruction. Should I be concerned that I will have a weird son that will enjoy hurting others, or will it get better? The tantruming is over. Everything, including a simple the tantruming is over everything, including a simple how was your day. He repeats our phrases like don't touch that, he touches it, don't paint on your hands, he does it. So I'm confused. I thought he was supposed to get better. I don't see how that's possible. He speaks, reads, on a great diet, sleeps great. Please, I want to cry. Reassure me, please," she wrote.
No, I do want to reassure you. You don't need to worry. With all the things that he's doing, he's going to do very well. You've been in the program for 14 months. He's only 4, so you have nothing to worry about. You're ahead of the game. But on the, it's easier for me to see that because I can see the 3-4 year period of time. For you, you're living it every day, and if he tantrums, that's not okay. So here's what you need to do. You need to get on my calendar. It will serve 2 functions. One is either mine or Evelyn Kong's, or ask for a consult with one of the seniors. That's all you do. Don't worry about offending anyone. I don't know who your supervisor is, and I don't know what office you're from, but everyone consults with us, so don't worry about that. There's a little bit of a difference if you've had 35 years of experience versus 5 years of experience. So no one is offended if you want to see me or Evelyn, who's been with me for 20 years, or Sienna, or any of the seniors. There's a lot of seniors at CARD who've been here post 20 years. So please request a senior consult. The thing about all of these behaviors is two things happen when we see you. We go through and troubleshoot and see like all the things and make sure everything's perfect. Sometimes I'll do a clinic and I'll be like, it's fabulous, it's great, nothing. And that really reassures the parent. Sometimes I'll change things because I have a perspective from a different set of eyes and I'm not right in the middle of it, and I can look at it and say, no, move this around and so on. Sometimes all that it serves is your supervisor wakes up, and says, I gotta make sure everything's perfect and keep it perfect. And every human being needs a check once in a while. We check our people. There's every supervisor has a local boss, and then QA is their boss, quality assurance. But let me please get involved, or let Evelyn or one of the seniors. My calendar is pretty bad, so it might take a while for you to get to see me. Please just get on it, no problem, even if it's 6 months or a year from now. But wherever you are, I have a senior somewhere, and they can see you. So if you're interested in that, write back to Shannon, and we'll connect you with the right person.
Okay, and just
don't worry.
Yeah, the other thing that I want to throw in, because I love, it's a resource that we're going to play in just a few minutes, the A word.
Yes.
There is an episode that I don't know which episode it is, but it's exactly a moment in time like what you're experiencing, where Jack Riley's made a bunch of progress and they're all excited, and then all of a sudden Jack Riley starts to bite his mother. He won't walk down the sidewalk with her. He's biting. He threw a tantrum at an event, and there's a moment where the dad is saying, I don't know anymore. I thought we were just going to make steady progress and we were never going to go backwards, and now this is happening and I don't know what to do. And he has a moment where he's saying, I feel like I'm losing faith, like this great wonderful thing that we had, weren't we supposed to make steady progress? And their therapist comes in and says, here's what we're going to do about this behavior, and they go through showing how they implement it so that Jack Riley stops biting. But it's wonderful. I, as a parent, love watching that, because I can remember when anything would happen, I would go, oh no, the sky is falling. That's exactly what it felt like to me, and I would panic because we lost skills. So anytime something happened where it felt like regression to me, it was, what they say about if it's hysterical, it's historical, and I would get hysterical because for me it was historical.
Yeah.
So I want you to watch that, to know that you're not alone, that this is sort of a typical thing that happens with our kids, that they will cycle in and out of some behavior, and that it's infinitely fixable, and our kids
Absolutely.
do, and also the idea of, oh, he's learned so much, but he's got so much more to learn.
Right.
I remember feeling like we were standing at the base of Kilimanjaro when I found out all the things that my son was behind on, and I was looking up at the top of the mountain going, we're never going to get there. Even when we'd made progress, I was looking up going, we're never going to get there. And the thing that my team kept reminding me is, know what the top is, know where the top is, but keep your eyes on the road that you're on.
Yeah.
Be in this moment, because, the only way anybody gets to the top of Kilimanjaro is by taking step by step by step, and then eventually you find, wow, I'm significantly higher up the mountain. You got to know where you're going, but
That's a
then
great way to
focus
put
on
it.
the road in front of you.
Yeah, and don't, and realize that a lot of times, I go through this with my own kids, realize that a lot of times it's our own fears. It's not really, the child might have a slight dip, but every child does.
Yeah.
And that dip seems to us as, a monumentous failure because... Is that a word, monumentous?
Monumental, maybe.
Monumental.
I like monumentous,
Thank
though.
you. That's my British and French and every word mixing it. But it feels like a huge fall and failure, and it's not. That's our own fears of. It's our own fear of, oh my God, we're regressing.
Yeah.
So once your child's acquired stuff, they're acquired. They have already acquired. Every child has phases where they will test.
Yep.
Now, and you need to realize that it's now your opportunity after 14 months to use your skills. You've learned a lot. When your child does stuff, you should know what to do now. If you don't, then ask your supervisor to work more with you and figure this out together. So, get back with us. Let one of my seniors get involved and help.
Yeah, absolutely. There is help for you, and I firmly believe that things are going to get better. I also think that when our kids cycle into a new behavior, it's a sign that they're growing.
Right.
And that's a good thing. It doesn't feel good to us as parents, but you'll get there. And keep reaching out and get on Dr. Grandpichet's schedule.
Or any of the seniors.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm not going to make you go over today. That was
Okay,
one of my
great.
goals today was that I
Thank
was
you.
going to get you out on time. So I want to thank you for
It's a
everything
pleasure.
that you did
Always
today.
nice
It's
to be
always
here.
our pleasure. We're going to take a break now and go to the A Word and show you part of this documentary that's being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And we get to have a window into his family's life, both his parents and as a sister comes into his world, to see what it's like to have this intervention, how things continue to progress. But from time to time, as we mentioned before, there are times when he will challenge what's happening, and how does everybody deal with that to have a happy, productive, learning boy who's doing so wonderfully now. When we come back, Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson will join me for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and our special guest today is licensed in marriage family therapist Vince Redmond. We're going to talk about the Santa Claus conversation. So you may want to make sure that little ones aren't in the room when we talk about that. But first, here's the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack.
Jack Riley.
He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
So Jack Riley is starting preschool, and we're scared because it's a big classroom. He'll have a full-time aide for at least the first month, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Is he in a classroom with typical peers or mixed classroom?
It's a mixed classroom. To be honest with you, I don't think they love him yet. You guys always treat him with love.
How many teachers are there in the classroom with them?
There's 2 and a couple assistants, and one who's supposed to be Jack's assistant, but we think she's just reassigned at the last minute to pretend she's Jack's assistant. We're gonna, in fact, try to observe a little today.
After Jack Riley has been in school for 30 days, Cheryl and Mike have an IEP meeting with the school district. An IEP is an individualized education plan. It's a legal binding document that outlines plans and goals for a child.
We went to our IEP the other day, and it did not go as badly as we thought it would. What they're ultimately trying to do is to take away a lot of the structured speech and OT time. They guised it under the fact that most of his needs are social related. What they're trying to do is do a lot of what they call push-ins, which is doing his speech therapy in the classroom. The more I think about it, the more I think that that's what should be happening in the classroom at all other times. Part of our concern is too is that we won 2 hours of OT during the due process, and they've never given it to us. For us now to allow them to reduce it to 90 minutes with never having even gotten the 2 hours.
Did the IEP affect the ABA he was getting?
No, the ABA right now is being provided by our regional center because I have a self-funded insurance plan that denied ABA coverage. So it is being provided by the regional center, but that's contingent upon us getting a certain amount of services from the school district. So it's all so interconnected and so scary because if one slips, then the other one does too.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is going to be joining me in segment 2 because we live in Los Angeles where there is, I know if you watch the news, you know that we had a massive fire that happened just a couple of days ago, and the traffic has been, crazy land. So Nancy's going to be joining us in just a few minutes, and want to remind everybody though that we have a toy of the hour. Our toy of the hour, as promised, is another Lego. This is from the Lego Friends line. They estimate that this is for ages 6 through 12. This is the Heart Lake Horse Show, and we deliberately left this for when Nancy is here because I know Nancy would have loved this as a little girl because it's got a bunch of horses and it has a steeplechase for them to jump over. It's got the loving cup for them to win. It's got some stable things with the saddles. It's just a spectacular, spectacular toy for anyone who's really into horses. I know we talked about this with the Legos before about how I love how they listen to us about what we'd like as parents. And Legos have always been unisex. Let's face it, anybody could sit down and enjoy Legos and play with them. But there were individuals who said, both girls and boys, boys, we'll say that, but more girls than boys, who are saying, why aren't there more pastel colored Legos? And why aren't there some things to build that perhaps more girls would be interested in? And so they've created the Friends line. Now, this is not just for girls. I want to make sure that we're clear about that, because quite honestly, my little boy would have loved this when he was 3, 4, and 5. He would have absolutely adored this Lego. Then he went through a phase where, not so much. But he was into My Little Pony and those kinds of things. So don't discount that your boys might also like the Friends line. But I know for sure that our little girls tend to really love this line of toys. And remember, there's, for this particular toy, there's a certain amount of dramatic play that they can pretend that they're other people. These kinds of toys help with socialization, but it also helps with construction, problem solving, following directions, block imitation, a whole host of things that are really important for all of our kids to participate in. And sometimes our kids on the autism spectrum find them a little bit less fun unless you put a fun toy with it. So this is a great toy, 355 pieces. So this is a spectacular toy for anybody to get for any holiday occasion, be that Hanukkah or Christmas, a really remarkable toy. If you would like to win this toy or any of the other toys that we've featured in the Festival of Toys, make sure that you are on our email list, and then email me at s.penrod@autism-live. Tell me which toy you want to win, and make sure you include your mailing address. I cannot have anybody win if I don't have a mailing address, because I have to send it to you. So of all of our proper entries, those that include the full mailing address, we will pick one winner for each toy, including this toy, the Lego Friends Heart Lake Horse Show. Great, great toy. We'll talk about that later so Nancy can ooh and ah over it. But we wanted to start this morning with a little in the news, and then later on we're going to be joined by Vince Redmond, who's going to be with us talking about the Santa conversation and other tough conversations that we sometimes choose to, and remember, it's a choice. Nobody has to do anything, but you might choose to have that conversation. So a couple of things that are heading up the news this morning, all over the news, that preeclampsia during pregnancy is being shown to significantly raise your chances of having a child on the autism spectrum. Preeclampsia, this new study has shown that it makes you twice as likely to have a child who is on the autism spectrum. This is something that happens during pregnancy. It's when a mother develops high blood pressure and often kidney damage. The symptoms can come on suddenly, typically late in the second trimester or early in the third trimester. The condition, which affects approximately 5 to 8% of all pregnancies, can be fatal to the mother if left untreated. Okay, the latest research indicates that the sicker a mother was with the disease, the more likely it was for autism to occur in the child. And I think the takeaway for this, and this is coming to us from the University of California Davis Mind Institute, very respected. They published this in JMA Pediatrics. It involved over 1,000 children aged 2 to 3, going back and looking at if their parents had preeclampsia. So twice as likely. What we want to take away from this is that it's super duper important if you are pregnant or thinking of getting pregnant to be monitoring your symptoms and your blood pressure, and to get treatment if you see any rise in that. They say that when mothers suffer from preeclampsia, they provide a limited supply of oxygen and nutrients, which causes stress to the developing fetus. An abnormal pregnancy marked by preeclampsia also increases a baby's risk for low birth weight and for premature birth, which are additional factors that have been found to increase a child's likelihood to end up with a spectrum diagnosis. So super duper important that you stay healthy when pregnant and that you're monitoring your blood pressure. Now, another interesting study that we're going to be talking about the next couple of weeks, published by Florida State University, has found that with proper proper training that parents can be more effective than previously thought. In previous studies, they've talked about a clinician delivering ABA contingencies to a child and that being the most effective. For the first time, we have a study that has come out that has shown that with proper training, parents can be as effective and in some cases more effective than clinicians. So this is really remarkable. And what they looked at in this study is sort of the traditional parent training that they used to give parents, which would happen once a month, and then moving to once a week. But in this particular study, they took another group of parents and they gave them repeated, more than once a week, sometimes 4 times a week, training in what to do with their child in a wide variety of circumstances, including being out in the community, going to the grocery store, being around other family members, working through bedtime and through mealtime. And what they found is that over a period of time, the children whose parents were more effectively trained had more significant gains in their therapy. This is great news for all of us. It empowers all of us as parents. If you are not getting the full training from your ABA provider to make that happen so that you know what to do in those circumstances, I want to encourage you to go to ibehavioraltraining.com, get that training for yourself. It's very inexpensive. Sometimes they're $7 a training, but we're seeing very clearly, and this goes in fact with our theme for this week about using different teaching methods and maximizing teaching, that parents, because we have access to our children so many more hours than anybody else does, if we are trained in the proper techniques, we can get them further. This is great news. Okay, also in the news this week, when we were on the show live last week, the House passed the ABLE Act, the Achieving a Better Life Experience Act. This is hoping to level the playing field for individuals with autism and other disabilities, and helping parents to be able to save money. In other circumstances, we can save money for college funds and have that be tax deductible, make it tax exempt, excuse me. Well, the ABLE Act will allow such accounts for individuals with disabilities to cover their future education, housing, transportation, and other related expenses. So in effect, it would be a lot like those 529 college plans. We know that the House passed this. We are now waiting this week for the Senate and hoping that they will also pass it. If you would like to go to Autism Speaks, go to their advocacy page. You will find Autism Votes there, and they will help to hook you up with your senators to nudge them and remind them how important this bill is to pass. It can make a huge difference for all of us. In other news, something very exciting that's happening this Sunday in New York City. There is a new Broadway show that is out based on the book, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. An amazing book. If you have not read it, I really want to encourage it as part of your holiday reading. It's very suspenseful, and the main character is a teenager, who is on the autism spectrum, and the whole book is told from his point of view. It's fascinating. I will tell you that I read it a couple of years ago, and it isn't, it's not the kind of autism that my son has, but it was so wonderful. The author is not somebody who's on the spectrum, but it's a brilliant book. It's a worthwhile read. Well, this has now been turned into a play that's opened on Broadway, and this Sunday they are doing a special autism-friendly version of the show. They had members of the autism community, including individuals who are on the spectrum who love to go to Broadway shows, come and advise them about what sound cues and things and light cues were happening that would make it difficult for them to enjoy the performance. The show is not changed in any way, but they will be taking lights down to 65% so that it is not as visually stimulating as the show would normally be, and taking a couple of sound cues down a couple of notches so that you'll be watching the full show, but it will be less of a tack. I know I was just at a movie the other day that I absolutely loved, Interstellar, but I will tell you, I would have appreciated being at an autism-friendly version of it sound-wise. It would have made it easier for me to enjoy the film. So there's a whole article in the New York Times this week about the process through which they went to have these autism organizations inform the cast and the crew so that they could make decisions that were based on things that actually matter to individuals around the spectrum. It's a great article. You can find that in the New York Times. All right, that's our In the News for this moment. We're going to take a break. I understand that Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is here. We're going to bring her in, and we're going to talk to Vince Redman via Skype about some of the more difficult things that we talk about with our kids, in particular, the Santa Claus question, the discussion that you might have with an older child about Santa Claus. You may want to clear the room of little ears so that we don't disappoint anyone. We'll give you another warning as we start that segment, but stick with us. We're going to be right back after these messages.
My name is Rachel. My son is Kyle. He has autism.
I am Kyle. I am 9 years old.
He's been with CARD since he was 2 years old, so that's about 7 years. We've been really fortunate that we've seen so much change in Kyle that you would really not even realize he has autism.
The front of the book has an artwork piece.
Is that me?
No, that's a self-portrait, that's why.
I thought so. Look, you're wearing the same kind of color shirt. He had been going along with pretty main milestones. He had walked on time, he had sat on time, he was looking at me at different things and laugh, and he had about 5 words, and then all of a sudden he lost the words. And I would call his name and he wouldn't look at me anymore. He all of a sudden went into his own world. I mean, I just noticed like he slipped away from us. I got into UCLA because somebody called in sick one day and we were on her waiting list, but she said, oh, I had a cancellation, can you bring your son in today? I took my son in with my mom and we had a 2.5-hour appointment where they observed his behavior, noticed they didn't have any words. He was climbing all over things and jumping off her furniture because he had no sense of fear. He couldn't actually feel very much. The doctor told me, ask for CARD, you can call them. I called them and got on their waiting list, and then I started researching what ABA was. ABA with CARD was the only scientific-based research that had shown that children could improve, or now they even say recover. And my son, I think, having all this therapy early, he's going to graduate from CARD. He's going to be able to be part of the community as a typical kid. How does it make you feel when you play the violin?
It makes me a little bit calmer.
Kyle, early on, he only liked baby food, and even at age 4, he was eating baby food, and he liked lots of flavors, but he didn't like anything with the texture. So he wanted everything pureed. So if you can imagine, as a mom, I'm up, cooking carrots and then pureeing them when he couldn't just have a carrot. It was really time consuming, and I could get the protein and everything into him, but he wasn't eating like a typical child. It was 1 year later, he, instead of eating blended bananas, he was now, peeling the banana and biting into the banana. Taking a hot dog on a gluten-free bun and biting into it. I mean, that is just amazing. So that was one of the main things I came home thinking, wow, this is great. It really was a relief for me because I was doing a lot of blending. I think I went through 3 blenders, and that's just not every mom that wants to have a regular meal and be able to have the same food with their son. So it really helped. Right now, he's on the road to recovery, we call it, and I really do think that Kyle, in a year or 2, will not even need assistance with therapists. He really is in a typical class, and he's at the highest level. He's in the advanced level. He's in a GATE class. I don't even think anyone knows in his class he has autism because he's just there.
This is a mobile. I got a very good grade on it. I got 4 because my teacher said that learned a lot about Neil Armstrong. This is a drawing of Neil's first footprint on the moon.
Is his footprint still there?
Yeah, it is, and his boots.
And his boots?
He left his boots on the moon.
He did. Everyone thinks he's very kind and he gives hugs to everyone, so the social interaction is there. He's very intelligent, he's highest in his class, and he makes friends, and he loves to read, and he's just a part of groups when he meets people.
My first trip to SeaWorld, I wrote it, but I wanted to make sure that you noticed that the sun is moving higher.
What does that signify?
That signifies that time is going. This is artwork in a frame. That took me a lot of work to do. I have some instruments over here. Something inspired me to make instruments. This was from last year for a fundraiser. This is the surfing pictures.
So here you're going on the surfboard, and did you stand up right away?
Yeah, I did.
You did. And show us how your stance on the surfboard. Ready? Go. And what's your favorite part about surfing?
The very first time I loved the wipeout. And I hope that you enjoyed me, Mom, and all of my interests in learning a little bit about me. The end.
And welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy is here.
I told you, I promised you, and she's here.
Yes, I'm here. It was a little of that holiday traffic. And,
well, I told them we live in LA.
But yeah, which I promised Shannon I have a time management issue, which I think all autism moms do.
Of course.
Right?
But we also live in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And I said we had a huge fire that was here, and it has messed up traffic
Well,
for the
there was
last
a
3
wreck
days.
on where I come in from, and we moved 3 months ago, and I still haven't quite gotten into my head that 20 extra minutes onto what used to take me. But anyway, I think we all could.
But you're here now.
I think we all could use some time management.
Yes.
Yeah. All
We'll talk
of us
about that
autism
in the new year.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Yes, we all need time management, but you get to where you need to get to when you get there.
I guess.
And there's a certain amount of that in Los Angeles that I have found you just have to let go of and say, unless I want to leave a day ahead.
Yeah.
And
you never know.
even then, sometimes the traffic happens. Yeah. And I try to remind myself when I'm in a hurry and I'm stuck and I'm in traffic that, there might be somebody that's requiring an ambulance.
Yeah.
And that I can just say, that's not happening to me.
Right.
And whatever I'm going to be late to, everybody can grab a whoopee, is the expression I like to use. Because people's lives are at stake.
Right.
So
yeah, and there's other things. We can talk about some more holiday things later, because I had a UPS visit last night that just brought to mind something, but we'll talk about that later. It's actually a good thing. But,
okay.
We've got Vince Redmond with us, so we don't want to delay. And by the way, we're red today.
We sort of talked about that last week, and so I thought I want to have the red. But I got to do the red with the black. I'm not somebody who can be like red too much.
I'm not a red person either.
You look great in red. What are you talking about?
But I'm just not a red person. I'm more earth tones. But anyway, here we are, sporting red. Is Vince got on red today?
I don't know. Vince, are you? And Vince is there on Skype.
Vince is in an earth tone, which is my usual color.
Even us out. That'll
All
even
right.
us
Hi,
out.
Vince. How are you?
Good morning, ladies. How are you?
We're great. And we want to remind everybody that Vince is a regular here on the show. He joins us once a month. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist, but he's also somebody who has worked extensively with individuals who are on the autism spectrum. So he is that, here we go, pun, but the marriage of two wonderful things.
Yes.
He's very familiar with doing ABA therapy with individuals and dealing with the kinds of things that they have to deal with, but he's also a licensed marriage and family therapist, so he can see it from both sides, the parent side and the individual on the spectrum. So we welcome him here.
Thank you.
Vince, here we are at the happiest time of the year.
The most stressful time of the year, right?
Right.
Yeah. And do you have any just to start things off, any basic advice for autism parents this time of year?
Wow, that's vague.
Like just in terms of...
We didn't ask him to prepare in terms of that.
No, but just take it, you know, in terms of...
I know it's Nancy. No, I think the biggest thing is try to make it as easy as possible. And by that, I think we all have our family traditions and meetings and parties, and we have to realize that puts a lot of stress not only on the family, but that puts a lot of stress on our kids. And to try to minimize, you know, excessive stress or extra stress, and try to keep things as consistent and as calm and as you know, as understandable as possible, I think is extremely helpful for our kids. Earlier in your guys' show, I was listening to Shannon. She was, you know, talking about, you know, movies and different types of entertainment that change and kind of acclimate to autism and acclimate to our kids. And I think sometimes we have to acclimate our traditions and our parties and our, you know, expectations of the holidays to our kids as well, so that they can enjoy them the best that they can.
Nancy always tells me to meditate and pick one word, and my word for this holiday season is edit.
Edit. I like that.
Because you know, last night I was up on Pinterest until, you know, way too late looking up recipes for gluten-free Christmas cookies that don't involve sugar. And so I found a whole bunch of them that I can't wait to share with you next week.
Good.
But I made the decision last night that I was going to make 8 different kinds of cookies. And then this morning I got up and said, let's edit.
Absolutely.
Let's edit down.
Do you really need 8 different kinds, Shannon?
Well, because I want to see the 8 different kinds on the platter.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe I don't need to do 8.
Right.
Maybe I can go to 4 and see what 4 is. Because 4 would, having it.
I think you're insane to even do 4, but that's my opinion.
But, you know, but that's pleasurable to me.
That's pleasurable to you.
Yeah. But you know, there's a point which you go from pleasurable to insane.
That's right. Well,
and it might be right around 6.
If I had known that you were up all night on the computer, because I was up all night picking Christmas music from my special needs ministry at my church, you know, that had a Christmas theme that, you know, has the lyrics they can sing along to. And, of course, I just was like, well, I don't know, Little Drummer Boy, Hark the Herald Angels.
Edit. A couple of, okay, so.
But you but you can now understand, right? You can understand that by going that same speed and doing that much more, and how much more that's going to put on your plate for the holidays. And we haven't even talked about just the rest of the stuff you need to do for the holidays is going to put, you know, a lot of pressure, a lot of extra stress in your life, which is, you know, bound to be on the kids' lives as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. True. Now, one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and we do want to remind everybody that if you have little ones who are watching right now, this might be the time you can turn it off and watch it later on in the podcast, or if it's nap time, but make sure that there are no little ones listening to the conversation.
We're talking about really going into adolescence here, I think, because
we don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
Spoiler alert. So,
spoiler alert. But let's talk about Santa.
Okay. Wyatt, Vince, as you know, just turned 13.
I know, amazing.
Yes. Tell me about it. A teenager. He is quite a Santa lover. Every year he writes extensive lists to Santa and wants to make sure he puts the North Pole on it and we put it in the mailbox. So he's made these lists, and I want to talk to you about the lists too, because a lot of them are age inappropriate things that kind of go back to areas of his childhood that he misses, like Thomas the Tank Engine and various books that we've done away with because of his desire to script with those books and perseverate on those books. Right. So anyway, he'll make these lists with a few appropriate things and other things that are inappropriate, like a hot tub and Thomas the Tank Engine button books, okay? And then he wants me to mail them.
That's quite
the
gamut.
Yeah, it runs the gamut, but every day he comes home and he says, Mom, did you put the stamp on? Did you mail the letter to Santa? Okay. And so we've been having a talk with his therapy team about trying to kind of break the news.
Okay.
About this tradition of Santa and the spirit of Santa, but kind of like the Easter Bunny, let's get the reality down. He's 13 now. Obviously, his friends at school know the deal. How do you suggest we do that? It's a tough question.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough question because, you know, the joy of the holidays or the joy of Christmas in regards to Santa Claus, again, you know, in that tradition is just that belief, that faith, that wonderful, just pure, you know, I can give the unadulterated requests and you know, some of them are going to get answered and some of them aren't, right? You know, I'm going to get these gifts and it comes from this, you know, being that has no relations to our parents. So it is tough because it does break some of the traditions and I guess the sincerity of Santa. But like you said, as soon as we start getting into the ages where his peers know and his peers are, you know, no longer believing, then we're going to socially start gapping our kids from the typical developing kids or even kids that are in his class that might already know. So we do have to start breaking the news. Now, for me, my suggestion is not doing it during Christmas time. It would be working up towards it. So starting, you know, if we're doing it now, I would say starting 2015, that's when we want to start debunking the myth and letting him know why things are, you know, what Santa symbolizes, right? Santa symbolizes giving and taking care of and you know, loving one another, not any, you know, and slowly start to build an understanding, because this is going to differ depending on each kid's level of understanding, but slowly starting to work them up so that as they get to, as they get to Christmas, then there's already going to be this built base knowledge, and then it kind of plays out in, well, remember what we said about Santa, and isn't it cute for the little kids, and now you're such a big boy and you understand, you know, maybe they understand the secret for their little sibling, you know, those types of bonding moments where we're now replacing bonding moments that used to be with Santa, now about the secret of Santa.
Okay.
But doing it right now would be very hard for a child to understand because Santa's everywhere and it's right in the middle of the holidays and they're excited about the holidays. And I don't, at least right now, we wouldn't have a lot of time to be able to effectively work that up.
Right. And it doesn't, it's not really helpful that the Polar Express is his favorite book at Christmas time, which is all about
mine too.
Believe.
Yeah.
No, really. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't books like that and some of the more serious, or you know, some of the older movies and stuff. It brings us back to that state. It brings us back.
That we should all believe. I mean, let's face it. A lot of these movies we see this time of year are about reinstilling the concept of the belief in the miracles and the beauty of what Christmas is about. But yet, for our kids that don't have those distinctions, those myths can be very tough.
And can I share with you guys, because I love Pinterest.
Yes.
And on Pinterest, there is a whole set of letters that you can write to your child and customize when you do tell them. But Vince, I love this idea of not doing it during the holiday season. I'm going to take that to heart. But so here's one in particular that makes its way around on Pinterest.
Okay.
Dear, and you put your child's name. You asked a really good question. Are mom and dad really Santa? We know that you want to know the answer, and we had to give it careful thought to know what to say. The answer is no. We are not Santa. There is no one single Santa. We are the people who fill your stocking and choose and wrap the presents under the tree, just as our parents did for us. Their parents did for them, and you will do for your kids someday. This could never make any of us Santa, though. Santa is lots and lots of people who keep the spirit of Christmas alive. He lives in our hearts, not at the North Pole. Santa is the magic and love and spirit of giving to others. What he does is teach children to believe in something they can't see or touch. Throughout your life, you will need this. The capacity to believe in yourself, in your family, in your friends, and in God. And it goes on
to
can
you get that to me?
Yes, but it's on Pinterest. It's all over Pinterest, and people have customized it for their child.
Sure,
I think it gives a really good context for our high-functioning kids.
Yes.
It gives you and I love it. It gives you a really good outline of, because you can take bits and pieces of it to adapt it to your child and to your family and to your beliefs. Because again, it's the spirit of Santa is just what, you know, I think what was the main theme of that, you know, Pinterest post is belief,
Yes.
right? And belief in your family, and you believe in the care of your family, and you believe that they love you, and they believe that they're going to give you things, those types of things. So I like that, and again, we can adapt it to our own levels of family, our own levels of religion, our own levels of belief, and to the age and the level of our kids, so that they understand that we're starting to teach them a new thing, right? That we're starting to let them know what Christmas is really about, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
In all sense, that's what Christmas is really about: is love, family, caring, and our beliefs in hope and faith.
So what about some of those traditions? For example, we go on a local train ride that's called the Polar Express. And there is a Santa that gets on the train and comes around to each child. Do you advise phasing those things out as children get older?
Depending on the ritual or the situation, yeah. I mean, some of those but you will need to replace them with something, right? They can't be just something that fades out and there's no replacement. This is something he looks forward to. This is something that he enjoys. This is something that marks the holidays for him. So we would want to replace it with something similar. It may not be based around Santa, but it could be something, like going on a train ride. The Polar Express. That's actually something that's very special and it's very fun. I've had many people or know many people that have done that. So we replace it with something else. We replace it maybe with a vacation, or we replace it with going shopping for Santa gifts for a sibling, or we replace it with actually maybe going to just a different tree lighting ceremony or something that he's gonna enjoy and look forward to, but yet it's slowly pulling away from it being, mainly around Santa or Santa Claus.
Can I ask you though, Nancy, are you thinking about phasing it out because he perseverates on it, or does he just enjoy it?
He just loves it, but I think he thinks the Santa on the train is Santa. I don't know. Maybe he thinks it's somebody playing Santa. I've never really explored that.
Have you guys had the conversation about the fact that, because a lot of times kids see the Santa in the mall and then they walk down, there's another Santa, and they think, how can they be in two places? Have you had the conversation of that those aren't really Santa Claus?
No, but we're having it at clinic this Friday.
Okay.
With the help of our supervisor. But here's another, I don't need to be hogging this conversation, but it's such an issue, some of these things with Wyatt. And I'm hoping that it helps illuminate some other things for other parents out here that might have these issues. Age-inappropriate toys. I have to tell you, Vince, the worst Christmas of my life was when I was told, do not get him any Thomas the Tank Engine toys this year. He's 7 now. He can't have them, or 8 or 9, whatever he was. And the resulting tantrum that ensued on Christmas morning turned me into a wreck. I remember throwing my hands up and going, well, the therapists don't have to be here today to deal with this, and running to my room, sobbing for an hour. My poor husband, the child is tantruming, I'm sobbing. We're trying to figure how to make this day, salvage it. And those are tough. And phasing out age-inappropriate toys. How do we do that in a way that is not going to result in tantrums and hysterics?
Well, I think it's similar to what we were talking about revealing the myth about Santa. Is it something that needs to be started well ahead of time of the holidays, and not just having this unexplained or unpredicted removal of all his wishes, or all of the toys that he's predicting or he's, requesting that he's going to get, right? So this is something that I would start in spring and slowly start, we're slowly starting to remove Thomas out of his life. And again, very systematic. It's not an all or nothing. Doesn't start with just a complete, removal, and it slowly works out. So by the time we get to Christmas, we've at least given 8 or so months of opportunities of replacing Thomas with other things, other interests, more appropriate interests. Even if it's still trains, but it's more about real trains and things like that. We might not even, it might still be with vehicles or something like that, but we're slowly replacing it with more appropriate ideas, more appropriate, age-appropriate activities or objects, so that again when we get into Christmas there's a little bit more. When he makes his list or he's asking for gifts, we're already on that momentum of new things, different things that aren't. So if he asks for Thomas or he asks for a perseverative thing, we can say, remember, we don't play with those anymore. We've already talked about that.
Right.
So that there is no anticipation that that's something that's going to still be there or still.
Yeah.
Continue.
He keeps trying to sneak it in, and he keeps telling me, don't tell Alex, who's his supervisor. Don't show this list to Alex.
But does he like other trains? Like
no.
I've
never gotten into the Lionel, never.
No trains.
Okay. Well, because we just watched on 60 Minutes the other day, and Mandy Patinkin, they did an interview with him, and his entire life, he has a train room. He's worked on that his whole life. I just wonder if your therapist worked on getting him interested in the Lionel trains.
We tried.
It took 6 months.
Well, his father has, but we haven't really succeeded in that.
Okay.
But,
right.
Maybe that's something to look at. And then, the hot tub, I'm trying to use that as a thing about showing him about finance and expenses. That's a good lesson. And
yeah, because sometimes kids ask for things that are just so pie in the sky that there's no way we can provide them.
Yeah. And, sometimes I think one thing to remember with our kids, Vince, is that sometimes we think that maybe they want things that are age inappropriate, but we got the Secret Santa from a little boy that Wyatt is in. Well, they're in 7th grade. And Elliot wanted a Snoopy, warm, soft Snoopy shirt or 200 Tic Tacs. I love that. It was very specific, 200 Tic Tacs. And I said to Reed, this isn't very different from what Wyatt would ask for, right?
Exactly. So it's funny. Sometimes what we think is age appropriate, sometimes we're pushing it a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, everyone has to look at what's, we'll look at each of our children in each of the situations at hand, right? Yeah. Some things that might be not age appropriate, but we're working in the right direction, right? We're getting there. Absolutely. We don't have to go from not appropriate to completely appropriate. As long as we're on the way and we're replacing with things that are more appropriate, maybe not quite to age yet, but more appropriate in this is working, and we're seeing more interest in new things and more of a willing desire to be interested in new things. That's progress, and we have to make sure that we do this, at the child's pace, not at maybe what we want to do.
Vince, you're always so wonderful.
And just
we
to touch on food for one moment, because we talked a lot about Thanksgiving with you, Vince, and the food issues. And I just have to say that we had our most successful Thanksgiving ever at a friend's home, and there was tons of inappropriate food there. Excuse me, but what I did was I brought the substitute cheese, the substitute gluten-free stuffing, everything, and it worked beautifully.
Great. Great. Something that we can all, I'm glad to hear that worked. That's okay. But Vince, we thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing you again in the new year. And I've already got some topics in January that I want to talk about that are more centered around the family and less around the child. How we get back to some family fun and family resolutions, couple things. Because we were just talking the other day about Temple Grandin and the good marriage advice she gave me about you've got to find time to be a couple, that it's not about autism. So we're going to have you give us some tips about how we do that.
Sounds great.
Okay. So thank you so much. We wish you very happy holidays.
Very happy holidays.
Family.
You too. To you and your families, have a happy holidays, and I'll see you guys in the new year.
In 2015. We'll see you then.
Vince.
Take
Bye.
care.
Take care, guys.
And as we go to break, we've been doing the Autism Act of Love Challenge, and we've asked people to take the challenge. We had a very special, somebody who's been a guest, 2 people who've been on our show before, Liz Becker, and this is her book, the Autism book. If you look on the back, I wrote the thing that's on the back cover because quite love this. Love Liz, love Matt. And this is a series of blog posts, articles that she had written as she was preparing Matt who is largely nonverbal, but preparing him to move out on his own into his first apartment. An amazing journey. So we challenged, you got to read this.
Yeah, I want to read
We
it.
challenged Liz, and both she and Matt took the challenge. And so they've agreed to let us show that here on the show. And then they sent me the drawings. So we have proof that this is what they did. So take a look. This is Liz Becker and Matt from Autism and the World According to Matt, taking the Autism Act of Love Challenge.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Liz Becker, and I was challenged by Shannon Penrod to do the Act of Love Challenge for Autism to help autism.org. So mine is going to be on minions. I just close my eyes and draw minion.
Oh.
That's mine.
Yes, my name is Matt. I think it's time to the challenge to get together for the minions.
Good job. Go ahead and start. And if you want your eyes open, you can have your eyes open. You want to hold it up? Hold it up, Matt.
That was the challenge, and this is my minions.
And we should say that that address is helpforautism.org. But they sent me the drawings, which are just, both of them are amazing.
They really
with your
are.
eyes closed. Even Liz's, that she thought was so funny, this wonderful minion, and I love that they signed them and sent them to me. But Matt's is incredible.
It really is.
I mean,
quite an
I could not
artist.
draw that with my eyes open, and we saw that for most of it, at one point, he did open his eyes, but for just a second to
Yeah.
see where he was, but the rest of it, he had his eyes closed very amazing, and he is an incredible artist.
Yeah, I can see that.
But want to encourage you guys to check out the book,
I want to read this
Autism
book.
and the World According to Matt by Liz Becker. It's quite lovely. I wrote on the back, they say you must walk a mile in another person's shoes to really know them. Liz Becker is an autism mom who walks a marathon in her autistic son's shoes and details it beautifully in her book, Autism and the World According to Matt. It is amazing. I compare it to, it's got a real Earl Hamner kind of feel to it. If you loved the Waltons, it's got that sort of a feel to it. So in any case, highly recommend it. We love Liz. She's been on the show a couple of times, and we love the way she made this possible for Matt. I mean, this is really, she's a tour de force. She made it possible for her son, who she describes as having significant issues with autism, to be able to live independently. It was his dream, and she made it possible.
That's astounding in and of itself.
It really is.
She's to be applauded.
Yeah, absolutely. So check it out.
So is Matt.
And so is Matt. So should we take a short break, and then we'll come back with some more stuff that we want to share with you that's holiday inspired. So stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing, and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith. And we're back with Let's Talk Autism, and we were talking about first of all, gifting.
Yeah, gifting is hard this time of year, and you were mentioning, because money is tight for everybody and you need to spend your dollars wisely.
Right.
But I do think that there is a benefit in gifting always.
Yes.
I will be honest with you, in previous years we haven't focused on that with Jem for him to gift, but this year we've made it a focus that he has to come up with a gift for everybody who's on his list, and he had to make a list, because I realized that I wasn't doing him a favor by leaving that out, because part of what feels like the holiday to me is giving a gift to someone that has meaning. It isn't always something that you spend a great deal of money on. It's something that has meaning.
And my son, fortunately, is an artist, and he loves to give his artwork.
Yeah.
And he loves to write and then draw, make handmade cards for everybody. So we do give a lot of artwork that Wyatt has done.
Yeah.
I like to give gifts that people can keep. And for therapists and some teachers, I bought some candles that have beautiful things inscribed on on them like love and hope and various things. So then you can use those as pencil holders or vases. I think that's a great thing to do.
That's a great thing to do.
Yeah. And obviously giving to charity with a card that a gift has been made in your name.
That's a
Act
wonderful
today.
thing. You can absolutely do that for
We need those
people.
gifts, yeah. And, you know, we'll be happy to give you, if you want, we can send you stationery to say a gift has been made in your name.
Yeah.
We tried that with cards a few years ago, but then, you know, it was so complicated that that people could order cards and say a gift has been made in your name, but we didn't get that many takers. So.
Okay. I always tell the story years ago, the Christmas that was, I thought, going to be the hardest Christmas ever, that ended up being the Christmas that I judge all other Christmases by, that we, you know, it was like the first week in December, and I sat down to do, you know, the bills and how much money we had for the month, and had a panic attack because I realized that we didn't have enough money. There were 3 things that I needed to do, and we didn't have enough to do all 3. One was to have Christmas dinner.
Right.
One was to buy gifts for my son, and the third one was to buy the medicine that he was on at that point in time. And I did not have enough money to do all 3. I might be able to do 1.5, 2 of them, but I couldn't do all 3, and it like took the breath away from me.
Yeah.
I thought, what am I not going to do? I can't. There's nothing on here that I can, you know, do. And a friend called me right then, and I said, I can't breathe. I don't know what to do. I need to order his medicine, but if I do, it means we're not having Christmas dinner, or I don't have a gift. My husband and I were already not going to gift to each other.
Right.
But I needed to be able to get a gift for my son, and the friend said, you know, order that medicine, the rest will be figured out. Trust in the universe, the rest will be figured out. And I was like, what does that mean? I can't trust in the universe right now. I'm talking about realistic things here. Don't tell me, you know, I love, you know, getting all, you know, tutti-frutti about things, but this is my balance and my checking account. We can't get tutti-frutti about that. And she was like, just trust. It'll work out. And I went, okay, all right, I'm just going to blindly trust. Hung up the phone, pulled out my credit card to order the medicine, and as I did that, the phone rang, and I picked it up, and I didn't recognize the number, and I thought, oh, what is this going to be? Is this a bill? What is this going to be? And it was somebody who is a friend of my family who said, I normally get him a gift that I will make a donation in his name to Habitat for Humanity every year. And she said, but we saw that your son was diagnosed with autism and that you had a fundraiser. I would rather give you money for medications that your son might be in need of.
There you go, the universe.
The universe said,
God answered
yes.
your prayers.
And I said to her, I started to cry. I said, are you kidding me? Is this a joke? And by the way, she did not know the person who I'd been on the phone with. This was totally the universe. And I said, is this a joke? And she said, no. And I said, you know, I want to be like you, that this is the kind of thing that you gift to a friend, that you know it would make him happy to give my child medication. Thank you so much. I want to be more like you.
Sometimes you have to put it out there too. You know, recently someone asked me what they could do when they learned my husband was going through cancer, and this person is in a position of great wealth. And I said, right, here's how you can help. You can write a check to Act Today, and they wrote a $10,000 check to Act Today. Got it a couple of days later. So, because that helps me, because as Act Today does well and continues as a nonprofit, then that comes back to me and my family, because I have my job and I can keep doing the work that's my calling.
Yes, and it's all important, and it feeds the soul.
Yeah.
So a great thing to do, but also in terms of, we were talking a little bit before about things to give teachers and those kinds of things. I love to do a lot of handmade things.
Yeah.
Because only when it lowers my stress. I like to make jewelry and things that I can do, and that lowers my stress, and then give it as gifts. So it's very low cost, but it's meaningful.
Cookies and brownies and things that are, especially recipes that might be handed down from your family, you know, and then you can put them in pretty little containers that they can keep, and they'll remember you.
But another great thing that you can do for teachers and therapists is write them a letter of recommendation saying, my child with autism is in their classroom and they do a wonderful job, or this therapist has worked with my child for this amount of time. It will cost you a couple of minutes of time, but it's so meaningful to them because it goes in their portfolio and stays with them.
Okay.
And if you do it for a teacher, give it to the principal as well. I always do that at the end of the year.
That's great. Also, here's something that I wanted to share with everybody. I am one of those people that when I see a homeless person on the street and they have a sign, you know, we'll work or we'll do this, or homeless, can't afford this. And a lot of us are worried about giving them money because I have been personally told by people that work with the homeless too, if you're giving them money, of course, you might very well be feeding a habit. You might be very well feeding an alcohol or a drug habit. So I had a friend that kept little cans of soup in the car, but then I thought, well, where do they heat the soup? You know, what if they don't have access? So I went and bought a huge box of Cliff Bars that are actually gluten-free and dairy-free.
Love that.
I have them in my little Prius, and I have now given out 5 of them to people on street corners. And when they come over, I say, this is food. They gratefully take it.
Yes, that's a lovely idea. You know, Dr. Granpichet's daughter, Nikki, who's an amazing young woman, she puts together little care packages that have hotel samples from soaps, shampoos and soaps and things like that, and a pair of socks and something like a Cliff Bar, and gives those out. We had her on the show.
Keep them in your car. You don't want to have too much, you know, maybe little bottles of water too.
Yes, absolutely.
But a nutrition bar is just the perfect thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely
so that's my tip for today. And you don't feel bad. You don't feel guilty. You don't drive by without looking at them. You don't feel like, oh, I just gave them money to maybe go buy a 6-pack of beer or whatever.
Well, and as we're ending the show here today, because we showed this before when you weren't here, and we left it for this hour while you were here because we knew you would have loved this toy.
Of course.
This is our toy of the hour, Lego Friends. This is the Heart Lake Horse Show. Perfect gift for a young person. I'm not going to just say, I'm not going to say just for girls.
No.
Because boys will love this too. Got horses and very cool.
So
if you want to enter to win this or any toy from the Festival of Toys, make sure that you're on our email list, but then email me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. Make sure you give me your mailing address and tell me which of the toys that we've featured that you would like to win. I have to tell you that tomorrow on the show, we have Wicked Cool Toys on, and we're going to be featuring Wicked Cool Toys from Wicked Cool Toys. There is a toy that we're going to be giving that if you have a little girl in your life, I'm just going to tell you, it is amazing. It's a $300 value, a Disney Princess wood kitchen we're giving away tomorrow, along with some other toys from Wicked Cool Toys. We're also going to have Dr. Adele Nadowski, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, and Roz Picard is going to be with us from MIT talking about the bracelet Embrace and what that's doing for individuals with seizures. We're out of time, but we will see you tomorrow. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.
Stay calm.